How's it going, guys? This is Rio Murata, photographer based in Tokyo. So you probably saw my previous video where I basically talked about visiting a Lomography Plus store in Japan and Tokyo specifically. And on my visit, I picked up the Lomography Digitaliza Plus, and I thought, why not talk about this product specifically? And because I haven't done any serious scanning yet, this is going to be sort of like an overview of this product specifically. And if you guys probably know or not know, there are basically two ways or maybe three ways of scanning a film negatives or a film color slide film type of film. Yeah, option number one is using a dedicated flatbed scanner such as the Epson's GTX series of flatbeds. I use a GTX 830, which is sold in Asia. In North America, it's called the V550 or V600. Option number two is using sort of like another dedicated type of film scanner such as Plustek optic film type of scanners, which are more like specifically for either 35mm or 120mm, if I'm right, if they have that product. Or option number three is using sort of like a digital scan where you use a mirrorless or maybe a DSLR camera, attach that in a combination with a macro lens, and using a sort of like a scanning board, which I'm going to be talking about. So this is more specifically going to be on that topic, where this is basically a sort of like a scanning board where you use either a DSLR or a mirrorless camera to like basically shoot that film negative and incorporate that into Lightroom or Capture One Pro or any kind of like editing software and do it in post. So this product specifically, the Digitaliza Plus that Lomography released, is specifically for people who shoot with a 35mm film negative or 120mm actually. And compared to the alternatives, those alternatives are really expensive in my mind. And if you look at B&H, they have a lot of companies that provide similar type of sort of like products, but they cost more than $200-300, which is more, it's like really expensive in my mind. While this product specifically is roughly $70 if I'm right, and because of that price being on the cheaper side, it is made out of fully 100% plastic, and it is in a way kind of flimsy in my opinion. So this Digitaliza Plus specifically runs on AA batteries, and there is a certain catch to this, and that catch is I would not recommend using AA batteries for this because you're basically scanning in the dark, and if the AA batteries run out, you're kind of screwed. You're like stuck in like pure blackness. So, and there is option number two where you basically plug in a micro USB cable through this unit, and you can basically attach this to a mobile battery, like an Anker's mobile battery, and you can run power from there. So you won't have that, chance of like having the batteries die out on you when you're like actually scanning in the dark. So basically I tried like 120 and 35, and this is sort of like the way it works. So this sort of product itself, it's like kind of intuitive but not intuitive actually. So how should I explain it for you guys? So there's this sort of like clamp actually, which you basically lift from the product itself, and you basically, for the 120, you basically lay the negatives on the sort of like the area that you want to take a photo of or scan actually, and then you basically have to clamp it back in. And what's bad about this system for 120 specifically is that you're basically limited to that one frame, and after you finish scanning, so you have to re-lift that clamp because it's like already locked into place. You can't, and for the 120 you can't sort of slide, and the more expensive ones, which I never tried unfortunately, probably have some kind of functionality where you basically slide the negative across the the white acrylic that's passing through light, and you don't have that functionality with the 120. And this can be hectic, especially if you're shooting with 645 in my opinion, because 645 in one strip of negative you have like multiple frames already in there, while for people like me who shoot with a 6.9, the Fuji 6 GW690, which has basically two film or two shots per like film strip actually, I can basically just lift it up and close it, do that operation 4 times, and I'm done. But if you're like shooting with 645, you have to do that double actually. So it takes much more time than I anticipated, and that's sort of like a negative when using this like specific scanner actually. Okay, so the 35 mil, it's like really easy to use. You basically have to sort of like add this 35 mil specific like mount, and on top of that you basically stick onto this another sort of like product which basically sort of like winds the film negative across the frame. And this one is much more easier and much more intuitive actually, because there is this winding wheel, and when you stick in your sort of like film negatives, the 35 mil film negative from the right side, you basically wind it clockwise, and it basically sort of semi-automatically like forwards that film negative across the frame, and you basically shoot that photo, and when you're done you basically wind it and it goes across, and you basically do the exact same procedure back again and again, and it's much more faster, it's much more efficient, and this is actually the reason why I purchased this, because it actually works in my opinion. And that's basically it about this product specifically. Unfortunately, I haven't done any like serious testing of how durable this product is in a long run and stuff like that. Might make a video on that. And also, Lomography also makes a Digitaliza, what's it called? Digitaliza Max actually, which is sort of like an extension to this product. In addition to this, they also add a sort of like a smartphone holder, which you can basically shoot from above, and also it comes with some kind of like standoff. And this is like one of the things I realized after using it just once or twice actually, which is this product specifically, the Digitaliza Plus, and this is a negative actually. So when you're sort of like forward or advancing, or when you're like moving the negative across, if you're like scanning a medium format, the product itself has a high chance of moving on top of your like sort of like table, because there wasn't that much of a friction going on. So in order for this to work flawlessly, you might need to like purchase some kind of like anti-slip type of mat to work on, so that because when you're like doing these DSLR scans, what you do is you basically have it on a table, and on top of that you have a camera that's on a tripod facing down actually, and the camera should not move, because if it moves the point of focus will change, and you don't want that to happen. And at the same time you don't want the surface to be moving, because if it moves you basically have to either move that product back into its original location, or either you have to move your camera sideways to sort of compensate for that. So that's one negative that I found with this product. It kind of slips, so you have to be careful with that. And if you're like really serious about that, that specific area that you want to shoot, then I would highly suggest you to like purchase sort of like an anti-slip type of mat, so that product won't move at all. So yeah. And last but not least, I forgot to mention this, but Lomography originally had the Digitaliza series. You guys probably know about it. They have a 35 and a 110 and a 120. And that one's, I actually used it once, but I couldn't get the hang of it, unfortunately. So I never mentioned it on my channel, but I used the 35 once, and I did not like the experience of sort of like clamping it from the top and stuff like that. And this one in particular is much more intuitive. Like I said, you basically forward the film negative, the 35mm film negative across by just winding the forwarding like winder, and it basically adjusts to the next frame at your own will. So this is much more easier, much more efficient in my opinion, if you're like scanning a lot of negatives. So yeah, that's basically it. So if you have any questions, if you have any comments, leave it in the area below. I'm happy to reply. Hopefully I did not cover everything in this video, but probably in the future video I will make another video on how I scan using this product. I need to allocate more time on that. So yeah, we will see you next time. Peace out.